This is the Great White Buffalo
Great White Buffalo.
White Stout. A White Stout is kind of a joke and challenge style of beer to make. Tastes and drinks like a normal dark stout, but is a golden yellow color. Homebrew City, home brewing in the Brew City. And here's how I made it.
But before we begin that, this was the brew day from hell. The original purpose of this brew day was to test out this new boutique yeast from Ferns Creek that was harvested from Canadian peat moss. And my first thought was, Canadian peat moss yeast. We should make a dry Irish stout out of it. So I bought all the ingredients I needed for a dry Irish stout. Warm up my strike water, and I check on my yeast, and some of the vials broke open. I lost 2/3 of 3/4 of my yeast to the Ziploc bag that it shipped in. And now I'm trying to salvage as much of this as physically possible, freaking out, just completely freaking out. My strike water is at temperature. I throw all my grains into my brand new brew bag, into my stainless steel 10-gallon pot because I brew in a bag, and I ran back in trying to clean it up a bit more. 15 minutes later, I go back out, I swirl the grains with my giant whisk, I take temperature, and I notice the color is yellow. The color of my sweet wort is yellow after 15 minutes. It should be black. It should be black. Go start rooting around in all the stuff I had, and I never looked at the grain bag. Instead of my dry Irish stout grains, I was shipped grains for a West Coast IPA. No Maris Otter, no roast malts. I had 2-row and some caramel 20. But I also had my flaked barley that I also put in there already. So now I had a distinction. I had a decision I had to make right there and then. Do I make a roast or a flaked barley IPA, or do I try to continue on the Great White Buffalo White Stout? This has been an elusive beer for me for over a decade. I've been thinking about this ever since having the Casper White Stout from ages ago. The beer that is yellow and still tastes like a stout is just a fun little concept and challenge that I've always wanted to do, but never actively sought to do until now. Until now, this brew day from hell inspired me to actually go through with it. So cheers to that. Continue on to the brew day of hell. So after I've been mashing, I pull my grain bag, brand new brew bag. Catches on my thermometer probe. Rips. That brew bag is now probably ruined. I might be able to patch it, but it's going to be unlikely. So that's gone. Get the boil going. All sorts of problems happen along the way, but the biggest one is I ran out of gas. My hour boil became 45 minutes because my propane tank went empty. Whatever. We're salvaging this. This is an elusive beast. We're going to salvage, and we're going to continue as needed. So I cut it short. I chilled it as needed. I pitched what yeast I could save. I had some old US-05 I also threw in there. Why not? Took my initial gravity reading right then and there, and I came in with over 83% efficiency. This thing, based on my recipe that's free in my profile, or if you look up Great White Buffalo Stout on Brewfather, you can find this beer, and it should be only maybe 6.2, 6.3%. This is 6.9. Maybe 7% based on your rounding. This thing overachieved. And it also overachieved during fermentation. Because after I sealed it up and put it away, that fermenter exploded. It was going nuts. And just being in the room while it was fermenting was the first sign that this was going to be okay. That this was going to be a successful hunt. Once it finished fermenting, which it did in like 5 days, I let it sit for another week. Let the yeast clean up their mess a little bit. Make it a little bit less appley and acetally. And then, stainless steel sleeve. I put 4 ounces of Kirkland Special coffee in this. And it sat in my fermenter for 2 days. That's it, 2 days. 4 ounces of coffee, 2 days. Cracked open the fermenter, you get hit with this wave of coffee just billowing out in your face. And you think, oh no, not again. Did I ruin it? And then you take a sample and it drinks like a stout again. That coffee aromatic is just there on the nose, but it's mellowed now that it's in the keg. It's mellowed on the palate. Kegged it, carbonated, and I brought it to my homebrew club meeting. And I was asking everyone what they thought of this great white buffalo.
Great White Buffalo.
And overall, everyone enjoyed it. There were a few people who absolutely didn't like it, and there were a few people who thought it was the best thing ever. Probably also because it was just a fun little beer. But all of the complaints, even people who enjoyed it, the things they didn't like the inclusion of peat and smoked malt, and they felt that it had a bitterness much higher than the recipe actually came in at. Looking through the recipe, double checking with a couple of the beer judges at the meeting, and we figured out what it was. The Kirkland Special Coffee. That Kirkland Special Coffee that only sat in there for 2 days, that gave it that roasty characteristic, was also kind of a French roast style, which would give harsh astringency and a smokiness to the beer. Now again, this is us salvaging a failed hunt left and right. So this is ultimately a success. But if we're going to do this again next time, I'm going to be particular on the coffee I pick. Being from Milwaukee, I am going to probably go 3 Volcanoes from Stone Creek, because that has a wonderful, rich chocolate flavor to it. Not the rough, smoky char that a French roast has. I'd also probably switch out that 2-row for Maris Otter, and let's be honest, cut the caramel 20. Cut the caramel 20 if I want that little bit of extra caramel malt or color. I'd probably go more along the line of Biscuit or Victory, but I haven't decided on that part yet. But overall, this great white buffalo.
Great White Buffalo.
I think I finally got. Homebrew City, homebrewing in Brew City. Cheers. Happy hunting.